Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Evan.
Hey, Jason Underwood.
And we hope you're enjoying the shows on the Danger Entertainment Network, now including the Bearded Ones comedy podcast.
Yeah, we're super thrilled to be a part of this awesome lineup, guys. And what we do here on our show is, look, we are just trying to make you guys laugh through all kinds of different avenues.
Hear me out here. Yeah. Hear me out.
Please.
What we are is we're two geeky white dudes talking and trying to be funny.
Yeah, not try to blow in your mind here with with something brand new, but
You never heard anything like this. We talk about Star Wars. We're talking about superheroes.
Talking about Marvel movies, man. Look, we're cutting some we're breaking some damn boundaries over here.
We are breaking new ground.
Yeah.
But for real, what we do is we play invented games.
Yeah, and we try to spin everything into a brand new fun game that we've made up. We filter it all through that sensibility, and
we're both improvisers, so a lot of what we talk about ends up in sort of a scene that we have a lot of fun with. We talk about our lives, pop culture, and movies. We talk about a little bit of everything. So if that's what you like, check us out, Bearded Ones Comedy Podcast on the Danger Entertainment Network.
They look like Vikings.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen. I am your hostess for the evening, and with me, as always, we have Brian and Henno. Hey, guys.
Howdy.
Hola.
Hola.
Ooh, giving a little flair to the podcast, bringing in other
Oh.
languages.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're just making noises now.
Oh yeah. For Halloween, we had a Halloween contest at my work, and
Been weirder if
one
you'd had
of
a
the
Christmas
women-
contest.
Yes, it would have. But we had one of the women dressed up as the Kool-Aid Man. She was pregnant, and she had a piece of the wall on either side of her belly, and the belly was the Kool-Aid Man face.
I like
It was
that.
perfect.
That's
So,
that's
sorry,
strong.
I had to mention that.
No, that's strong. I like that.
I have an inappropriate story about. That just reminded me of an inappropriate story I have about that topic that I heard last week. But you'll have to privately DM me. That is Ida Heno, and I will share the inappropriate story about the Kool-Aid Man.
Nice.
I like it.
All right, let's kick this show off. Who wants to go first and let us know how their week went?
I'll go first, and hopefully Jen's internet will catch up. So I have I succeeded in my intention for the week in that I found much balance and rose out of the basement for a while and did a lot of music, which was really fun. We did a video shoot and I ended up recording it. And I mixed it down on Saturday. I spent most of Saturday doing that. Oh, that was the other thing I did. The day after we podcasted last week on Thursday, I woke up and I just felt a little off. And I said, you know what? I got up. I walked over to my last pay stub. I looked at how many days of PTO I had. And I'm like, sweet, I'm good. I'm calling out today. And it was like total self-care day. It was perfect.
Nice.
And I felt no guilt whatsoever. Yeah, like I could just tell. I was just a little. I had been talking about been pushing a little too hard, staying up a little too late, getting up a little too early, and it was starting to catch up to me. So it was perfect. And I actually did some stuff around the house. And like I said, I worked on this recording, and it came out sounding really good. I spent like almost all day on it, and then we saw the video, and the video was terrible.
Oh no!
But it was like.
Like, what do you mean terrible? Like, the idea was terrible, or just the acting, or was?
No, they're professionals, right? The guys that came over and videoed are professionals, but what they primarily do is interviews.
Okay.
So they're focused on one person talking to another person, not on shooting a band. And this was the first time.
Okay.
And it was our studio, and Tom had done a great job cleaning up the studio, but white background. He's got white walls.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's us. And, they didn't have monitors there for the cameras. So one camera would go out of focus every once in a while. And they just, like I said, they'd never done bands before. Yeah. And there were some issues about, headphones and this and that. But I was just like, as far as I'm concerned, they did what they came to do. Yeah. They interviewed us. Oh, this was hilarious. So they have she had a bunch of questions all prepared, and it was really cool. She had grabbed questions from famous interviews from like a long time ago, like a Bob Dylan interview from like the late 60s, or a interview with Neil Young from the early 70s, which I thought was really neat. And then we also had thrown up some questions too. So before the interview part happened, we were going through all the questions and talking about stuff. And there were some where, the question didn't really apply, but I'm like, no, leave it in there, because us saying no and then redirecting it is conversation.
Right.
Right. Because I'm thinking like what we do on podcasts. So we get to the interview part, and it was really funny, because as soon as I started talking, I was like, okay, I talk on podcasts multiple times a week. It became so obvious that I practice this every single week. And I felt kind of good, because that's one of the things that I've wanted to feel good about, is like an interview with somebody to present a point, and to I think like this podcast podcast and moving the needle has really helped me with this, where we're taking turns.
Yeah.
And so it trains you to form a thought, present it, and close it in a reasonable amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think sharing with 12-step meetings also helps with that, because again, you want to be respectful of time. You want to present something. You want to have a point to it. So that was kind of like a little win for the week, is like being in an interview, because I was nervous, to be honest, because I don't do interviews.
Yeah.
But I do this, and the podcasting completely just slid right in there. And so what we'd done is we played the song a bunch of times, and we finally got, a good take. And it's like, let's go with that. There's a couple mess ups in it, but I can fix it. Like I said, we saw the video and everyone was just like, and I'm like, it's fine. It's rehearsal. They came and they filmed our rehearsal.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. If we want professional, we can go rent a stage somewhere. We need to do more, because they were like talking about, do you want to redo it? And I'm like, no, I spent all day mixing this song. I'm like, use it.
Yeah.
Like, just use it. We're talking grades of improvement here. So Tom went and went over and helped them with the editing, and I'll by next week it should be up, so I'll definitely talk about it on the show and let people know where they can go see it.
Cool.
And it was good. I think the song came out really good. It's a song about what's going on our border, and Tom has become a really good. One of the most difficult things that I've always had with songwriting, and I think it's just writing in general, is picking a difficult topic, like something that where you can come across as you are. Let's just say you're taking an activist approach,
right,
to something you're presenting, but you don't want to sound like you're just preaching. That is a very difficult thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
In my experience. And the first time I ever heard Tom's music, he had a lot of politically charged, and I'm not talking about just necessarily politics, but also difficult subjects like death. He's a doctor, so he talks about cancer and losing people. And you can kind of become too literal and not pick up the vibe. And he has become such a great songwriter, where he can present a political topic, and with the right music and the right interaction, you enjoy the song for what it is.
Yeah.
And if you want to read the lyrics, and they're all right there. And that was one of the songs we did, and I was really proud of it, because I think that is a very difficult thing to do, is to take a difficult topic and to present it in a way where your emotion about it comes through. And I'm just really happy to be part of it, where it doesn't sound like you're being preachy, but you're expressing yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the best of art. So
yeah, because when you're
really
being preachy, you
week,
end up alienating. So,
exactly.
Whether you mean to
exactly.
or not, that's what ends up happening. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Whereas you could grab somebody with a melody and they might not necessarily like some of what you're saying, but they're like, oh, okay. You may be able to tap, or it starts a conversation. I think that's, we were talking about this earlier about, posting things on the internet. It's like, are you just slamming people, or are you starting a conversation? And like, I will self-admit, my Facebook page right now is just a whole bunch of slamming.
Yep.
But frankly, I'm done. So, and that was my other win for the weekend, was I finally read something on one of the online newspapers I follow, and I was like, that's it. I'm done. Like I'm pretty much, I've been a news junkie, most of my adult life.
Yeah.
And I literally hit a point where I just said, this is disgusting and I can't do it anymore. And signed up for Disney Plus, and I'm going to watch a lot of cartoons.
Sounds like a good plan.
I know the feeling though, because I went through that a few years ago too. Like I did that. I used to, engage in a lot of stuff on Facebook and whatever, politically and just different, not just politically, but just current events of any kind.
Yeah, current events. That's a great way.
And I got to where I was like, I'm done. like I'm just tired of putting this energy into this. Like I'd rather do things that are more positive than this. You know?
Yeah, I literally had one last thing to say, pretty much, and I'm like, this is just stupid. and I went back to the gym yesterday. That was awesome. Except I came home. I haven't been for. I think I maybe have gone like once in the last month or so. I've literally just been blowing it off. And I got home last night, and when you're so tired, you're not even hungry.
Yeah,
just like laid on the couch, and I eventually got up and did some things around the house that I wanted to do. But it was a really good week, and with that, I'm passing.
Nice. Well, I guess I'll go next. I'll make Brian go last.
Okay.
So my week it's been pretty good. It's been pretty standard. The usual stuff going on. Nothing too crazy. And then the weekend came and we decided to winterize the house. So I ended up helping the husband bleed some brakes. Then he went to the crawl space and we did a bunch of different chores and whatnot to kind of get things going. So thankfully I didn't have to go up on the roof. I didn't have to have any
panic. To ask.
No panic attacks, thankfully. I did have to go on a ladder, but I was only a couple rungs up, so I was good there. I was inside the house and it wasn't hailing, which is awesome.
It is always a bonus when there's no hail in the house. Yeah.
In the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of that is going pretty well. It's interesting. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but we do have, the holidays are coming up, and with holidays coming up, there's always family stuff around holidays. Whatever your family may be, however the makeup or whatever, there's usually some sort of stuff that usually comes up. Well, my family is not different at all from all that. And we have situations where there's people who probably wouldn't choose to be friends, but they are they're relations, if that makes any sense. But they find themselves in the situation having to make nice and having to find ways to get along. And it's always interesting when one person stops. And for whatever reason, they decide that they just don't want to participate anymore. And it's always, so I'm at that point where I'm a little bit on the outside looking in on the situation. So you have two people who can't really get along. So one person is opting out, and how the rest of us have to figure out how to maneuver through. It's always interesting when you find yourself in these situations, because not only do you have the normal layer of uncomfortableness and the socialness behind everything, but you have your mental health stuff on top of it. So it makes it really, really interesting. And I find myself having more anxiety than I normally would. But there's also a freedom that comes with making those decisions. So when you come to that point where you're like, you know what, this is not healthy for me anymore, and I can't be involved in this, it's freeing. So it's really weird, because and I know this may not be making the most sense that I've ever made before, but I'm hoping everyone's following along with me. But so now I find myself in this situation where I have to do some, it's either have to go along with the flow, which is uncomfortable and feels weird and gives a lot of anxiety, or opt out and not have that uncomfortable social anxiety and all that stuff, but deal with peer pressures and things like that. So it's really quite an interesting kind of dilemma that you find yourself in. So I'm not sure where it's going to land or what's going to end up happening, but I just wanted to make, I guess the whole point of me bringing it even up is just to remind everybody and to mention that it's okay to opt out. It's okay to choose what's best for you and not necessarily what's best for everybody else. So just be your own advocate, I guess, is more than anything kind of where I was going with it. Just be your own advocate, stand up for yourself, opt out when you need to. And I guess the best way to put it is if you can't control the situation in the manner that you wish to, it's okay to remove yourself from the situation. And it doesn't mean that you're intentionally hurting anybody. It doesn't mean you're intentionally trying to cause drama. You're just doing what's best for you. And that's okay.
Yep.
Because it should feel like when you mentioned like having that sense of relief, it's like that idea of dropping the rock. You know, you're carrying this heavy thing around with you.
Yeah.
And then you finally just drop it. And it's like, okay, that feels better. You might miss it a little bit. You might be like, kind of miss my rock a little bit. But usually if it feels good, it means it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough and it's complicated and it's, there's so much that gets all mixed up together. When you're dealing with, these types of, relationships in families, especially when you run into it. So it's never easy and it's never easy decisions, but sometimes you just, like you said, you kind of have to go, if it feels good, then that's probably the right answer for you. And it's okay to have that right answer for you even if it's not the right answer for the other people. It's still okay for you to make the right decision for you.
Yep. We have a friend of this show who listens to this show who's literally done the same thing in the last, it's been going on for a while, the decision, but the final, dealing with it is happening right now. Cause like you said, the holidays are coming up and it's all about self-care and self. And the difficult part is exactly like what you talked about is everybody else everyone else is maneuvering around. And there might be a little pressure to, do you really have to do this or won't you change your mind and blah, blah, blah. And it's just this thing. It's like, hey, I'm not forcing you to do anything.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything. I need to do this. And I am so proud of him for doing this.
Yeah.
And that's really the best way to present it too. And it's a very thoughtful way of doing it. And when you present it to people that you're doing this for yourself, and you're not attacking, you're not causing a ruckus, you're not making drama, none of that. It just doesn't matter anymore. It's like, no, I'm opting out. I am removing myself from the situation because it is not a healthy situation for me to be in. And that's okay. It's hard to come to those terms, especially when you're raised in a family such as mine, who are very go with the flow, don't make waves, accept everyone for who they are. And you don't say uncomfortable things. You just let them exist and you maneuver around them. And so for me, raised in that atmosphere, for me to be in a position where I'm having to say, no, I'm not doing it anymore, is really hard, but it's going to be worth it. I truly believe that the right outcome is going to come from it because I'm not controlling others. I'm not asking them to do anything differently. They can make their own decisions just like I'm making my own decision. So I know it's kind of cryptic, folks, so sorry about that. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've been struggling with this week. Is just kind of coming to terms with a lot of that stuff. Well, everything else seems to be going pretty status quo and normal. But and the other fun thing that I wanted to talk about, self-reviews. They stink.
I hate self-reviews.
Yeah, me too.
It's that time of year, and if anyone's in the business world,
Such a cop-out.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the way I
Such a
always felt about
cop-out.
it too.
I look at it as like, if I'm sitting across my quote-unquote supervisor,
Yeah.
well, you don't deserve that title.
Nope.
Ugh.
I agree. If
Yeah,
I have to
so
do my
I
own
have to-
review, then what are you for?
Why are you here?
Yeah.
Well, we do layered reviews. So it starts with the self-review, then the supervisor they read your self-review, then they add their piece to the self-review.
Oh, that's
Go
even
over it
worse.
with you. You come to terms. You don't have to come to agreement,
Right.
but you come to terms with this is the way it's going to be. And once everybody's in, like I said, you don't have to agree with your manager, but you have to understand their position. So once everyone's into the same understanding, then it goes to their manager to sign off on it. Then it goes to human resources to sign off on it.
So I don't mind the kind of like almost like an interview where
Mhm.
they ask you what you think, but they've already done the work.
Yeah.
Right.
If they've sat down and they've done the work on their own without me, and then they ask me how I feel I've been on such and such, and then we have a conversation about do you agree, do you not agree, blah blah blah. I'm completely okay with that. It's when I have to fill out the whole thing myself, and that's the basis for it. Nope.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
what bugs me is I hate that they make you go first, because it reminds you of like, one of the, like if you're trying to buy something from somebody, you never walk in and make your offer. You try to get an offer from them first.
No. Yeah.
Right? And both sides in the
Mhm.
negotiation will try to employ this tactic, right? As
Yeah.
the buyer, you never want to throw a price out because maybe they're willing to take 50 and your starting price would have been 75. So, right? And I feel like that's kind of this thing is if you walk in there and you're like, blah, it's like, what in my head, it feels like a trap. That's what I'm looking for. Because it feels like, what if you say something they wouldn't have considered? Like,
Yes.
and it's like, whereas my feeling was in the few times I did this, I treated it more as a deposition. I answered the questions exactly as asked and offered no more. And, and at both times I got criticized for not, really digging into it. And in my head, I'm going, no, because that's your job. My job here was to answer these questions. I answered them, much like in a court case. It isn't my job to cross-examine myself, right? So,
Yeah.
and I mean, not that I really felt that, I wasn't hiding anything or anything like that. I was truthful. I was just like, I'm not going to give you something you can use against me. And that's what bothers me, is that's what I feel. And I noticed because I saw other people walk into that trap and give something. And since the manager goes second, they can just add it to their situation. And then it becomes a reason to maybe not give somebody a raise or a promotion or, and it's like, yeah, I'm not going to give you that. If you want to find dirt on me, you got to find dirt on me. I'm not going to just hand you,
I mean, it's supposed to work the opposite way.
It doesn't, though.
Where things, where things that they hadn't noticed, it gives you the opportunity to brag yourself up. But I'm no good at bragging myself up.
Right.
I'm good with details and with facts. I'm not good with, shining them up, shall we say. So, I'm curious to see what she comes back to me with, especially because I've only been in this position for 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's in, of course, the rating scale is weird because it's either meeting expectation and sometimes overachieving. And, not meeting expectations and then sometimes, or meeting expectations and sometimes underachieving. And I'm like, well, I don't fit in either one of those categories. I kind of just meeting expectations because I'm brand new and I'm still learning. So I'm not.
Well, also,
I'm not overachieving, not underachieving.
You're being paid to meet expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really. So I've never understood why meeting expectations is seen as getting a C in school.
Well,
because it's not quite the same thing in a job.
I wanted to add to that because that's we've changed our forms from the old, what was it? Excellent, very good, good.
Yeah. A, B, C, D, E, F, right.
We've gotten rid of, right? They've gotten rid, which is basically A, B, C, D, E, F,
same
right?
difference. Yep.
We've gotten rid of that entire thing and have gone to this, meets expectations, exceeds expectations, or needs improvement, or whatever it was. They've done a simplified scale that has more to do with conversation, and that I'm okay with because at least I can start by saying I meet the expectations of the jobs, or I can say I know in these couple of places I go above and beyond.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no problem saying meet standards, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
I like that. I think it's a lot better than this grading scale or 5 different things. Because I think it really is like what you're talking about, Jen. You got 3 choices.
Yeah.
You and like you are hired to do. There's a job description. Granted, if you were given one, if you do what that job description says, you've met expectations.
Yeah.
Period.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Is I feel like there's an A, there's A plus, A, and F. That's the way I think it is. And that
okay, yeah.
If you fail to meet expectations, that is an F. You are failing at what is expected of you. If you meet expectations, that's an A because that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you should strive for. If you exceed, there has to be something on the scale because there is the possibility you exceed. But most of the time, most people do not exceed expectations. So I feel like I just have always hated the way they make it feel like school, to where it's like, well, you just meet expectations. It's the flair thing from Office Space.
Yeah,
we require 24 pieces of flair. You only have 25, or 24. So it's like you're passing, but it's close. And it's like, no, I'm doing exactly what you want me to do. If you want 27, tell me 27. And I feel that way with these evaluations too. If you want more out of me, put that in my job description. Otherwise, if I deliver on my job description, that's an A. That's what you're paying me to do.
Yep.
Yeah. If I go above and beyond that, great. That's a whole different, story.
Yep.
But I really feel like it's pass fail or pass and there is, I guess there really should be another one in between A and F because there is you're not meeting expectations, but we think you can work on it. And then there's also no, you suck, and here's the box of your items, and please get the hell out.
Thanks for playing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
But anyway, yeah.
So there's a lot of anxiety and whatnot's going on with that as well, which is always fun.
And that's, what? That's the thing is there shouldn't be anxiety.
No.
Unless you are sucking.
Right.
And it shouldn't be. And honestly, I've been through some really, really, really bad reviews.
Yeah, you have.
And unfair stuff, and I think that's where I get anxiety is because I was treated very unfairly, in the past. Yeah. So with a new manager here, I don't know what to expect. And I'm kind of guarding myself and gearing up for the same bad treatment, even though I know it's probably not going to happen, knowing the manager that I have. Yeah. It's not really her style to do that stuff, but I've been surprised by people in the past, unfortunately. Yeah. So I'm keeping my guard up.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it just works out to how we'd like it to. Which is where you feel like you're treated fairly.
Right.
And that's where I really feel that it's going to end up. It's just keeping my anxieties in check and having my anxieties understand that that's what's
that's what we're doing here. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
because in the
anxieties
end,
don't want to believe that.
right? I was gonna say, because in the end, regardless of your whatever grade rating, whatever you want to call it, it's like the one thing you absolutely want was like Heno said, it's like was it treated fairly the whole process?
Yes.
And if I was, then hey, everything else falls where it does, and if I need improvement, I'll make it and whatever, So it's because there's nothing worse than feeling like you went into something like that and just absolutely get blindsided. Thinking you're doing a good job, and you walk in and they're like, yeah, you stink. We're going to see another, hopefully we'll see a different Brian after this. So.
Oh, those words.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful is right.
Yeah. Pretty terrible.
What a morale booster.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Well, so that's what I've got going on. How about you, Brian? What do you got going on?
Well, this is another one of those weeks where I keep finding myself in what I keep calling like roller coaster weeks. But what's actually happening is to me, they're roller coasters. To most people, they're probably going, yeah, we have ups and downs every week. I just for so long have not had those because of just mostly having lows, that when I have both, it's to be celebrated almost because I'm experiencing, different points on the chart instead of just one area of it. But first of all, my back is feeling so much better this week. I'm actually pretty close to doing everything I was doing before. It's still tight. My doctor told me to, just stretch a little bit, but be careful, because with your back, it's so touchy that, you never know. Just, again, the way I heard it was by barely bending forward, so just barely bending forward again could re-aggravate. So, he's like, just be careful. And he gave me, an anti-inflammatory and some muscle relaxers, and I've gotten to where now I'm only taking the muscle relaxer before bed because it I've noticed my back really seems to tighten up, as the day goes on. So I'm noticing that's allowing me to get comfortable and be able to sleep. So,
what did they give you?
I don't know. It's sitting 4 feet from me, but I can't read it from here. But honestly, I think I was in pretty decent shape by the time I got to the doctor anyway. Like when I was talking to him, he was asking me how long when I did it, and I told him it had been a week and a half before basically. And he's like, why didn't you come in sooner? And I was like, you didn't have any openings. And I told him, I said I wasn't going to go to the hospital because, and he just was like, yeah, like don't bother kind of a thing, so. But he checked me over to make sure, it didn't feel like anything, like there was no like protrusions or anything in my spine to feel any slips and he asked me a bunch of questions to make sure it wasn't, something seemingly more serious. And I had blood work done while I was there, and that was cool. We got all this stuff out of the way. But like I said, I'm feeling so much better now. I mean, I'm still sitting here with heat in the massage option on my chair, as kind of a just not precautionary, but more of a, I don't know what the word for it is. I can't think.
This just feels good, and you know it.
Well, no, it's just to keep things where they are, essentially. Like the reason you keep stretching is to stay loose, basically. And that's basically what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to make sure that when I'm sitting at my desk, it's feet on the floor and, the way I'm supposed to be sitting and all this kind of stuff along the way. Trying to make some changes there so that, maybe I won't keep my back as tight as it was. And probably next week I'll probably start doing some more, little tougher stretches, like get more into the core and hamstring stretches and stuff again. But yeah, I'm real happy about that. I cooked dinner tonight, which is the first time I've done that in a couple weeks. So, it was, aside from, making myself a sandwich or something like that, I actually, cut up vegetables and made a salad and, chopped up some squash and different stuff tonight. So it was really, me standing there bending over a little bit, cutting stuff up. And, you know, I got my blood work results back, and, you know, like a couple of my numbers are a little high, and it's, you know, when it first happened, I seriously, like, when I got the phone call, I was having trouble getting to sleep anyway, and they called it like 9 a.m, so I was still awake. So I answered the phone, and then I'm like, man, I was like, why'd you answer the phone? It's like, now you hear this stuff, and now you're going to not be able to sleep because you're going to obsess on, you know, whatever. Again, it's nothing major. It's just my doctor's very much hey, these numbers are up. Let's get it back under control. He's that, you know, he's not a panicker. You know, he's not like, oh my God, you know, like he's very much just, all right, let's get it back under control, you know.
Not the best bedside manner.
No, it's fine. It's just, like I said.
If you're a panicker, I mean, could you imagine if your doctor comes in like losing his mind every
right.
time?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's what's funny to me though is, apparently he wants me to go see a specialist, but he didn't say for what. So I called and
so I got that going for me.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, you know, he said my bad cholesterol's up a little bit, my liver enzymes are up, which that might be my guess as to which one. But he also said my thyroid numbers were high. I've never had an issue with my thyroid, so that one, I don't want to say worries me, but concerns me the most. The liver, I'm sure it's because I'm fat and fatty liver, and or the medicines I'm on. I'm on a lot of stuff, so, you know, and here's the fun part. If I wasn't as fat, I'd probably be on less of the medicine. So if I lose some weight, probably get off some of the medicine. So, but yeah, I was just kind of like, I called and I'm like, you didn't say what kind of specialist, or you didn't give me a referral or anything. And the woman was like, yeah, there's nothing in the notes. She's like, I left a thing for the doctor, but he hasn't, you know, finished it yet. So like, okay. I was like, so yeah, I was back in there today, but apparently he was out of the office today, and he must not have put anything on my notes because there's nothing there. So yeah, so I went in today for, you know, dental, or, you know, for a cleaning, because I realized a few weeks ago that I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm well past my time to have this, and they didn't send any reminder out, which is weird. Normally they send a postcard that's like, hey, come get your teeth cleaned, you know. So I go in for that, and I talked to my insurance the other day, and they actually said, a while ago, I'm sure you guys remember, like, I need a crown on one of my teeth. Well, I talked to my insurance, and the woman was like, yeah, we'll cover that. And I'm like, well, they told me you would not cover that. And she goes, well, let me double check. I'll, you know. So she comes back, and she's like, yeah, I pulled up your account, and you're on this plan. And I said, yeah. And she goes, yeah, we cover that. So I go into the dentist today, and I'm like, talk to the woman from billing, and I'm like, hey, here's what, and she goes, I've never heard of them covering a crown. She goes, let me get my book, because she's like, I've got all the if this, then that's in there, you know. So she gets the book, and she looks, and she goes, yeah, no, it does not show that they'd covered in here. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, I'm not making it. I'm like, no, I believe you. I'm like, I'm just, one of the things I'm being told is not correct. You know, it's like, I'm not trying to call anybody a liar, but one of them is clearly not correct, because they're giving me two different answers. So I was like, okay. So I don't even know now. I'll probably call him again and try to talk to somebody. Maybe I can get them to, like, can you give me a document that says you'll pay for it? Or, you know, can you give me something I can walk in with? Yeah. So.
Yeah, basically a pre-approval.
Yeah. Well, the woman in billing apparently has been doing that job for like 25 years. And she's like, I've never heard of them doing it.
I've never heard of it.
And I'm like, well, it's tough to argue with her versus Rando I talked to on the phone. They could have just gotten the job. I have no idea, you know, so. Yeah. So, you know, I'm not really worried about it, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those things that it's like, it's just in the back of your head, you know? Like, I just want it to be done. I want it over with. So, we'll see how that goes. But, yeah. while I was getting my teeth cleaned today, I've been trying to, because of listening to the Waking Up app and doing the meditations in there, I've been trying to find difficult scenarios to meditate in and try to meditate in them.
Huh.
So while I'm
That's a
in
good
there, and the way this dentist office is laid out, there's air quote rooms, but it's actually like an kind of an open floor that just has walls in between the exam areas. So, but there's no doors on any of them. So as you're walking by, you can see everything. You can hear all the noises in there. So I'm laying there. Of course, I hear, the scraping and the picking from, my teeth being cleaned. I hear the radio, which is playing horrible music. I hear someone is, getting their teeth drilled, and I hear just random chit chat and all this. And I'm like, okay, let's see how many times I can bring it back to the breath. How many times I can come back to focusing on the sensation of feeling me take in the breath all the way through everything in the exhale, and see if I can keep doing this. So I did quite a few times. I found myself being able to do that and really feeling the sense of calm, even though there was a ton of noise around me. What I did find out was I had to stop, because I noticed every time I got to that point, apparently I was closing my mouth. So, because I was no longer focusing on keeping my mouth open.
Yep.
So I was like, well, I certainly don't want to make this woman's job harder, so so I was so I kind of had to keep that in my focus as well as trying to do the other. But it was really interesting how effective it was, like being able to do that and really get myself in a state of calm, so that was kind of cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, I think it's a really good practice. I know Sam Harris has talked about, I've read stuff where he's talked about that with meditation, that people should meditate in like public places also, as kind of a way of showing people, like, you don't have to just be in a quiet room in your house to meditate. Yeah. You can do this anywhere. So yeah, that was kind of cool though, to get to those moments of just calm, although I will say I wasn't all that anxious, because like I said before, I'm only anxious with the dentist before I'm in the chair. Once I'm in the chair, I'm like, whatever, get it done. Let's get this done. I'm out of here. But still, it was pretty cool. So,
that's cool.
And I've been using that same kind of technique to allow myself to read a little bit. So I haven't read much more in that book I had talked about a while ago, where I sat in the exam room or the waiting room with my mom's doctor and read while I was there. And I got another, I don't know how many pages. It was a good sized chapter out of the way the other night. And I only stopped because I was just tired. So, which is great, because normally the reason I stop reading is because I realize I can't pay attention anymore.
Mm.
You hit that point to where you're reading it, and then you're like, wait, what did I do? And you have to read it
you
like
have to
4
go back
times
again. Yeah.
So, so like I said, it's been a weird kind of up and down type week with a decent amount of anxiety in it, honestly. Because of, just dealing with the bills and, trying to get that crown paid for or whatever I'm going to end up doing, getting that done and all this stuff. But, mostly positive, especially because my back's feeling better. So I've been able to, kind of get back to normal as far as, doing things when I want to and all that kind of stuff. So, but definitely my win for the week was the meditating, while in the dentist chair today.
I think also you get like the big win for engaging in life.
Yeah.
Those are. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I forgot one more thing, which was while I was at the doctor's office, my former therapist comes walking by.
Oh, whoa.
And she goes, oh, she's like, awesome. And I was like, and she shows me this Post-its that she has, like, she's got them like, it's stuck to her finger while she had just gone to get a coffee. And she goes, and she points, and I'm like second or third on this list. She's like, I was going to call you today. And, she's like, cause she's like, I was talking or looked at, records of some of my former patients and realized you hadn't been back in. And, I was like, yeah, I was like, honestly, and I told her why, that I wanted to see how I could do on my own, for a little bit, knowing that was there, that if I need to go back, it's there. And she goes, okay. And then she was like, how did that go? And I, talked with her for a couple minutes, and then I told her, I said, but I'm going to make another appointment. And I said, because I'm like, I just feel like I need a tune-up, like just, and she goes, okay, and so she recommended, they have different people there. And she's like, I think you would work best with, and she gave me the woman's name. And she goes, do you want me to make the appointment, or do you just want to make it on your way out? And I was like, no, I can, but awesome that she offered. And also she goes, well, do you want me to sit in on your first session to make the transition easier?
Wow.
And I sat there and I was like, huh.
That's awesome.
I was like, you know what? I really don't think I need you to. Like, I think I'm going to be good.
That's cool.
And she goes, well, if you change your mind, just, call me and we'll, work something out. So that was so awesome. And because I have so much anxiety about going to a new therapist, because, you have to, and she's like, I'll sit down with her before your appointment. And she's like, and I'll go over some stuff with her about you. Wow. So she's not just walking in cold. And I'm like, that is so awesome. That made me feel so much more like, yes, let's do this.
Yeah. So,
kudos to her. And I even said that to her. I was like, that is so awesome. I was like, because, and she knows. I'm sure she looks at her list of patients and goes, I'll bet the reason most of these have not seen anyone else is the anxiety of it. So kudos to her for, doing her job, but at the same time caring.
But still, it's like,
yeah,
it really, the mental health industry has not ceased to amaze me. Like there's I keep hearing these great stories about where they go out of their way to help.
Yeah.
And to understand what people are going through and to be there for them. And I love that.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's still like that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Maybe for them, they're just doing their job, but I mean, it's kind of hard not to be a little cynical about, caring in people.
Yeah, it is. And that's the thing, is that totally melts the feeling of, oh, I'm just a number, I'm a file, you know what I mean? Like, it really is like they care about me. Like, she was like, how are you? And I told her, that I've been doing pretty decent and whatever. And she was like, oh, I'm so glad. And, and there's no air of pretense. She genuinely seemed happy. And I understand from talking with, some people, that I know that work in the industry and whatever. It's like, I imagine sometimes just talking or seeing a person that you haven't seen like that in a long time is a relief to go, I don't know how else to put this, but like, they haven't killed themselves. Like, that's awesome. Yeah. Good. Like, they're still alive. That's still, so yeah, kudos to her for that. That moment right there was also a big win, even though it wasn't something that I necessarily did, aside from the fact that I was like, you know what? Think I'll be okay to just go in myself, because I really could have. I mean, she was like, hey, do you want training wheels? And I was like, nah, I'll just try it myself. So yeah, that was pretty awesome.
That's very cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's it for me, I think.
All right. Well, we have a topic tonight, and I believe, Henno, you have it brought up?
Yeah, I did. Luckily for me, because of the magic of Skype, I can just open it like that. Boom.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. So this is going to be, we'll make this a semi-quick topic. So it's, how do I increase my compassion without becoming a doormat? 3 questions to ask to find balance between compassion and boundary setting. I'm just going to touch a little bit on the introduction, but this is from Psychology Today by Veronica Tate, PhD. And she says, compassion for others is one of the highest marks of a person's character. It can come in many forms, such as helping a struggling family member, giving support to homeless or oppressed populations, or showing love to those who have been outcasted or persecuted. Compassion is love in action. However, many people sacrifice their well-being to accommodate others. Here are important questions to ask yourself as you navigate the balance between compassion and boundary setting. So, number 1, is showing compassion to others allowing them to harm me, themselves, or others? And this topic in recovery from addiction and alcoholism, this comes up a lot. Obviously with husbands and wives and boyfriends and girlfriends and children and this and that is like when it's that whole thing is like, are you enabling somebody? Mm-hmm. How far should I go? When do I bring in the tough love? That kind of stuff.
Right.
And she says, helping someone in need should never be at the cost of your own mental health or put others in jeopardy. Showing compassion to a sex offender doesn't mean leaving him or her alone with your child. Showing compassion to a drug addict doesn't mean allowing them to self-harm. Forgiving a family member who once took advantage of you financially does not mean giving additional funds. Compassion is doing what is best for the person long-term. It may simply mean waiting patiently to help someone who is not yet ready to receive help. And I love that line.
Yeah.
I think it's so true, is that sometimes we can show compassion by not doing anything.
And that's one of the toughest parts of it is sitting by and just waiting.
Yeah.
So, and testing the waters and seeing, okay, are they ready for help? Nope, they're not ready for my help. And just waiting and just being present for them, being available for them, but not actively taking action. That's a very hard place to be.
Yep. And one of the tips that's given here is about communication. So when setting boundaries to avoid harm to others, describe your concerns and why you are setting the boundary you are. Continue to show empathy and love while holding firm to the boundary. If the relationship is toxic, the compassionate thing to do for you and your family may be to end the relationship. But there's communication in there first, and I think that's the most important thing.
And yeah, I always picture in my mind when you're talking about communication, especially difficult communication such as this, is the ball. You have a ball in your hand and you're passing the ball back and forth. So the ball's in my hand, so I say what I am going to do. Give the ball to you, you say what you are going to do. You give the ball back to me, now it's my turn to make my next decision of what I want to do. You can't dictate what the other person's going to do. You can only dictate what you're going to do. But it sometimes makes it easier that way to kind of visualize it and kind of take the emotion out of it a bit.
Yeah, and it is kind of putting it into a practical place, but sometimes that needs to happen to take away some of the emotions out of it, at least for yourself. Because oftentimes if somebody is wanting something or expecting something from me, they're going to be in an emotional state. And it's not going to help me also being in an emotional state. And now I've also learned that sometimes when you're very practical and very pragmatic with somebody that's emotional, it drives them even more, emotional.
It's true.
But it works self-care.
It works kind of both ways though, right? Like when you're emotional to someone who's trying to be, pragmatic, that it frustrates them as well as you. So yeah.
I just find it to be at least the one thing about the reason that I like that analogy of just, passing a ball back and forth is it lessens the pitfalls of me reacting instead of acting. Yeah. And I want to be in a place of taking action and describing it in a way that I know I expressed myself. I can't help if the other person understands me.
Right.
But I want to feel like I expressed myself in an appropriate way so that I feel good, basically putting my head on the pillow at night.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one thing that leads right into number 2. Is the world's grief overwhelming me and causing me to turn away from it? And this is the idea of having compassion fatigue or empathy fatigue. Is that you feel so much sorrow for those in need that you actively choose to ignore the suffering of others.
I've been there.
Yeah.
And I've been accused of kind of burying my head in the sand, and ignoring situations because I can't do it. I'm very, very empathetic, and as we've talked about before on other shows, and it becomes physically painful for me at times, and because I can empathize so much that I can't put myself. It's like when you get yourself burned, you're kind of skittish to play around with the fire again. It's the same thing. I'm very skittish when it comes to extreme sorrow.
That's you just nailed what this is really all about. It's about is to focus on shifting your empathy from emotional to cognitive in a way like what you talked about with the ball. That is, try to understand the perspective of those who are suffering without feeling the emotions they feel. And that if there's always going to be somebody suffering, and consistently trying to feel what they feel can burn you out.
Yeah.
Just like you described.
Definitely.
One of the things it says here that I liked, it says, you never need to feel guilty for living a happy life while others suffer. Many who have experienced tragic loss ask only that those who have not known loss practice gratitude. Reflecting on your blessings can increase both your joy and your kindness towards others. And I think that's a real great tip, especially when you do need to pull yourself out of a situation for the, your own, because you're too involved or too invested. Your empathy level has gone a little too high.
Yeah.
Is to also reflect on your own gratitude, in a way to because we can't make people follow a path. All we can really do is be a witness to them discovering that path themselves is, what I've been told, and I believe that.
Yeah.
One of the things it talks about here is compassion meditation. And I think it talks about, rather than focusing on the emotions of others, try to contemplate feelings of compassion, which is that part of that taking it away from the emotion and trying to bring it to making it more cognitive. And so you take, rather than focusing on a specific person and their specific problems, is to look at it more from just a general feeling of compassion for almost, anybody. But even focusing your compassion on someone that you disagree with, expanding compassion to everybody rather than just focusing on one person, or taking time to focus on yourself. It tends to lead, and I know this from this is my own experience as well, and it says here that people who use this type of meditation show greater altruism, which is a strong marker of compassion. They also show greater activation in brain regions known to be involved in understanding suffering. And I think that's really true. It's really worked for me is that the more I've focused on general concepts, and by using it in meditation, it has allowed me to be more understanding of other people, and especially in day-to-day activities where sometimes it helps to be in a place where you can see the world from somebody else's eyes, and so you don't react at them, if they're having a bad day or something like that.
Right.
So the last one is a lack of self-compassion affecting how I see others. A barrier to showing compassion towards others is lacking self-compassion. Do you forgive yourself for past mistakes? Do you allow yourself time to grow and improve? Do you view asking for help as a sign of weakness? Do you struggle with perfectionism and impossible standards? Whatever judgment you hold against yourself will seep into your relationships with others. And this goes right into the things that we talk about on The Crazy Life all the time. Take time to recognize your negative self-talk and practice reframing it. Talk to yourself as you would a loving friend. Exercise self-acceptance and self-forgiveness while recognizing that your flaws do not diminish your worthiness for well-being. This will give perspective as you strive to help others without thought of whether they deserve happiness, which I think that's also a great line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the things that I was told early on with dealing with resentment was the idea of meditating or praying for them, even though it's the last thing you want to do. And one of the little like tricks with it is, okay, spend the next 14 days meditating on this person and wishing the best for them. And if you don't make it, you have to bake them a cake.
Nice.
Jokes on them. I'm terrible at baking.
More times than not, most people didn't want to bake the cake, so they got over it.
Right. I like that though.
Nice.
But that's that kind of idea of opening yourself to. It doesn't mean that. I heard this other thing. I've heard this at meetings too. Is I love you, but that doesn't mean we have to go have coffee.
Yeah.
Right. I love you. I love you as a human being. I want the best for you. I hope that you find peace, whatever it is. It doesn't mean we go see movies together.
Right.
We can have compassion and love for others, even though they might be the last person we'd ever want to spend time with.
Mm-hmm.
We can wish them the best. We can wish them all the joy in the world. But it doesn't mean we have to call them all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, right. And I think a lot of that is what is being kind of talked about here is this idea of, finding compassion in yourself will allow you to find compassion in others. And in doing so, you'll be able to not become a doormat. You'll know where your boundaries are. I mean, if you're full of compassion and gratitude for somebody else, it becomes very hard to harbor a resentment towards them. That doesn't mean that you've let them off the hook. It just means that you've realized there is no hook.
Yeah.
That they can live their life and you can live your life and you can still appreciate, what they go through. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with it. You can completely disagree with it. And I found this has been one of the most difficult things in my early sobriety was to learn this, but it provided me the most relief towards people, places, and situations where I didn't understand why it was. I wish they would be different, and I had to realize that I just had to accept it. And that it was just easier to accept the situation for how it was or that person for who they are, wish them the best, and don't bake them a cake.
So tough to sometimes, to just kind of, especially if you're emotionally invested in a person and, you spend a lot of time working with them and trying to help them, and you get to that point where you just need to disconnect. And It's not an easy thing to do.
Nope.
No, it's not.
There's a quote at the beginning of this article that makes a great ending is, I'm never more courageous than when I'm embracing imperfection, embracing vulnerabilities, and setting boundaries with the people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think it's, you brought it up tonight, Jen, about it takes courage to set those boundaries, especially with family members.
Yeah.
It is really hard.
Yeah, it is.
But I think it is the one place where we can have wins. That's real courage. There's something just to kind of step away from a lot of the podcasts I listen to, more just the political ones. I've been doing some audiobooks lately. And one of the audiobooks was about Japanese culture, and they talked about this. It's wabi-sabi. And it's about the beauty in imperfection. When, there's this and balancing that with also that desire to find perfection. And because this had to do with samurai, and they're constantly training to, perfect whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's art or a weapon or, movement or meditation, whatever it is, but to also find where there's the beauty in imperfection. And it goes a little deeper than that, but from a simple, I just love the way it sounds. Wabi sabi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Word.
It is. And I love what's behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about finding the beauty and the miracle of something that's not perfect.
Interesting. This is interesting because it's so counter. I don't want to say counterintuitive, but it's counter to kind of like societal things. We seek perfection. So it is.
Yeah.
There is an art to being able to appreciate things that are not perfect or not deemed as flawless or whatever. So yeah, that's really interesting way of thinking.
Yeah, and that was kind of like my one of my wins for the week was mixing this song and being okay with it not being perfect.
Yeah,
that's a huge thing for me.
It is. Yeah.
I talk about it a lot. It's like done is better than perfect.
Yep.
I have a lot of things that aren't done.
Yep.
And it felt good, and I want to keep doing that. I want to. That's kind of like my intention for the next. We're going to be doing some recording over the next few months, and I want to find the beauty in imperfection. I want to find the beauty in just being a human. That doesn't mean that you don't. That doesn't mean that you don't work on something. It doesn't mean that if you can do something better, you try to do something better. But there's also to recognize when that when we have, especially as an artist, sometimes the expression is more important than the result.
Yeah,
it's true.
And if you can see the expression, does the result really matter? Because sometimes the expression is really what it's all about.
Well, and that's the thing is a lot of times if you can get to where you see the expression, really,
that is art.
Really, aren't you done at that point? If
that's
that was your
art.
goal, you've accomplished it. So, like you said, and you know it too. Like anybody who's done any sort of anything, the hardest part is knowing when something's done because we always, we just focus on what isn't perfect. And like you said, there's a lot of times where. Listening to like Song Exploder, there's so many times on that podcast where somebody has been like, yeah, this was happening. I was like, was critical of this, but then it happened and we're like, whoa, or you just hear something that they've taken out of something, or whatever, or just been like, no, it's perfect. Just leave it. Like, I can't think of her name. The one with Christina Aguilera with that beautiful song.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
When she recorded that, and she was like, "No, let me redo it." And the producer, I can't think of the woman's name now, the producer
Linda
was
Perry.
Yes, thank you, Linda Perry. When she was just like, no, you'll never do it better. Like, it's perfect. Like, it's great, and stuff. So going in, trying to make it perfect, all it was it was basically trying to put a gloss on it. And the song didn't need the gloss. It was, so again, you had your art as it was, with being air quote imperfect, but it turned out to be, great as it turned out. So
I'd like to see those job performance evaluations incorporate that.
Yeah.
Where you know what, you don't always get it right, but do you have a passion for what you do?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a passion for the people you work with? Is your heart in the right place?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to have that matter as much as all those little nitpicky
right.
things that we can get into.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anywho, well, it's been a good chat tonight.
Yeah, it was a really good chat. We all good, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, you know what time it is. If you would like to continue the conversation with us, you know what to do. You can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. You can reach me directly through Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G, or my alternate account, which is Witsky Dits. So you can find me on either one of those. If you want to hear more from me, you can also hear me on ShakeTheSheets.com is our website. Shake the Sheets. It's a pop culture talk podcast. And I do that every week. And Hanno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. Find me on Facebook and Facebook Messenger, Henno Heiter. And let's see, what did we do on Moving the Needle podcast this week? Oh yeah, Disenchantment. It was funny when I posted the episode, I put Disenchanted, and I'm like, oh, that's a different movie.
Yep.
It was corrected. Well, that was another one. That was my my little gulp for the week. When I went to go put the files in to edit it, they all were messed up and not together. And I'm like, oh no, I might have to have we need to re-record the podcast conversation. But luckily I was able to pull it off and put it all together. I was like, that's only happened a couple times, but when it does, you're like, eek!
Yeah. It's no fun.
Nope.
And you, Brian, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcasts at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so be careful where you're listening to it at. You can also find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. We're part of the Tangentbound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And we're part of the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, well. If you need help, as always, please reach out. There's tons of people out there willing to help. There's a lot of programs out there and stuff. And, just reach out, maybe do a little looking on the internet or whatever for, to find some stuff, but there's tons of help out there. So please reach out. And also, please reach out to people make sure they're doing okay and just let them know you're thinking about them and that you care. You never know how far that'll go to help someone's day or week or whatever. So yeah. And then, also keep trying to be kind to people. Just whenever you can, even if, it's not someone you see eye to eye with, like Henno was saying when he was talking about, that with compassion is even if you don't agree on something, you can still be compassionate to somebody. So, just keep trying to be kind whenever you can. And that includes to yourself, as we talked about in the conversation. Make sure you're taking time to be kind to yourself. And if you need a recharge, make sure you're doing that. Like, Heno took the day off of work because he needed a recharge. So, listen to your body and, again, just be kind to everyone, including yourself.
All right. With that, everybody go out there, have the best week you possibly can, and we will be here next week waiting for you. Have a good one.